sweet like a buttercup. You're a Barbie doll. Show them all what I'm made of. Strut down the hall. Won't stop till I get enough.
All right, so today we're going to kind of dive into a story that really highlights, where celebrity and a very heated political issue collide.
Yeah.
And it all centers around Selena Gomez and her reaction to a surge in these ICE raids right at the beginning of President Trump's second term.
Oh, wow.
So
it's interesting how this particular event kind of, captured in this Fox News article that we have, really reveals the power and also the pitfalls of celebrity activism.
Yeah, it's kind of a double-edged sword sometimes.
Absolutely.
Because on one hand, you have someone like Selena Gomez with millions and millions of followers, and she's shedding tears over these raids where over 1,200 individuals were arrested.
Right.
And a lot of these people were actually already convicted of crimes.
Mm-hmm. And
so she posts this video, and in it she's crying, and she's saying, all my people are getting attacked.
Right.
And she has this Mexican flag emoji alongside it.
Oh, wow.
And so it really got people talking.
Exactly. And that's what makes this case so fascinating.
Yeah.
Did it genuinely personalize the debate on immigration for her fans?
Right.
Or was it just performative, as some critics argued?
Right.
She even deleted the video, shortly after posting it.
Yeah.
Later hinting at, kind of being criticized for simply showing empathy.
Yeah, and that's where Piers Morgan's biting tweet comes in.
Yes.
Where he called it a new level of absurd celebrity narcissism.
Oh.
So you can see how there's this tension, right, between celebrities using their platform for good and,
right.
maybe for clout or whatever, but also the public perception of their motives. Are they really genuine?
Mm-hmm.
But, I think it's important to kind of remember here that Selena Gomez has a very deep personal connection to this.
Absolutely.
This isn't just some, hot topic that she's decided to comment on today.
Mm.
This is something that's very
close to home.
Close to home, yeah.
Yeah.
And she actually talked about this in a 2019 Time interview.
Right.
She shared her family's history.
Yeah.
Her aunt crossed the U.S. border illegally in the 1970s.
Wow.
And then her grandparents followed. And ultimately, her father was born in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she's talked about how she feels afraid for those in similar situations.
Right.
And she even produced this Netflix documentary series called Living Undocumented.
Yeah.
Which really it sheds light on these 8 undocumented families and their lives.
Mm-hmm. Very powerful series.
So for her, it's more than just a fleeting reaction, right?
Absolutely.
This is intertwined with her family's story, their struggles, and her own identity in a way.
Mm-hmm.
So it's understandable why seeing this increased ICE activity would hit a nerve for her.
Right.
But, we also have to kind of look at the broader political context here.
Yeah.
Right? This is the beginning of Trump's second term, and his administration was taking a very hardline stance on illegal immigration.
Right.
Specifically, they were targeting people that had already committed crimes within the U.S.
Right. And the Fox News article highlights this through details like White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt sharing an image of deportation flights.
Oh, wow.
And, even a Mississippi lawmaker proposing this, a bounty system for capturing undocumented immigrants.
Wow.
So you can really see these actions represent this clear escalation in the enforcement of immigration laws.
So on one hand, you have this emotional response from Selena Gomez.
Uh-huh.
And it's really rooted in her family history and her advocacy work.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you have this very tangible policy shift.
Right.
With this increase in ICE activity and this strong stance against, anyone entering or residing in the U.S. illegally.
Yeah.
But particularly those that had already broken the law.
Right. And this is where it gets interesting. This clash, it kind of forces us to ask, how do we balance a compassionate approach to immigration with the need for border security? Can a celebrity's emotional plea really sway public opinion on such a complex issue?
Right. Yeah. It's a question with no easy answers. And it seems like, just based on the reactions to Selena Gomez's video, it just highlights how divided people are on this topic.
Yeah.
Some people see it as a very legitimate concern for human rights, and other people view it as an attack on the rule of law.
Exactly. It's not a black and white issue.
Well,
there's a whole spectrum of opinions and experiences tied to this.
Right.
And we need to delve deeper into those to really get the full picture.
Before we do that, though, I think it's important for us to maybe unpack what ICE actually is and what these raids entail. Because I think the term ICE raid gets thrown around a lot. And I don't think a lot of people listening really understand the agency's role or the legal basis for their actions.
You're absolutely right understanding the mechanics of how immigration law is enforced in the U.S. It's crucial to having a well-informed discussion about it.
So let's break that down a little bit for our listener.
Okay.
What exactly is ICE?
Okay, so ICE stands for Immigration and Customs Enforcement.
Okay.
And it's this federal agency within the Department of Homeland Security. And their main responsibility is enforcing U.S. immigration laws.
Okay.
So they have the authority to investigate, detain, and deport individuals that are in the country illegally.
Okay.
And especially those that have committed crimes.
Okay, and so these raids that sparked Selena Gomez's reaction, were those like targeted operations focused on specific people?
So in this specific case, the article details that these raids were part of a targeted operation that focused on individuals who had been convicted of crimes, which the Trump administration argued was a necessary measure to protect public safety.
Okay, so they weren't random.
Right.
They weren't just rounding up anyone who appeared to be an immigrant.
Yeah, it wasn't indiscriminate.
They were specifically going after people who'd already been through the legal system.
Right.
And had been found guilty of committing a crime.
Yeah, that's an important distinction.
Okay.
However, even with this targeted approach, there were still concerns raised by immigration advocates.
Okay.
About due process and the potential for families to be separated.
Right. So it's in that context with these heightened anxieties and this surge in ICE activity that Selena Gomez's video emerges.
Right.
And so it makes you wonder what specific details besides her video from the article really captured how intense this moment was.
I think the Mississippi lawmakers' proposal for bounties on undocumented immigrants is particularly striking.
Really?
It really illustrates just how deeply polarized this issue had become.
A bounty system, like literally paying people to turn in undocumented immigrants.
Yes, that was the essence of the proposal.
Wow.
Now, it was ultimately rejected, but the fact that it was even considered really reveals this level of hostility that many found alarming.
Wow. Okay, so we got a lot to unpack here.
Yeah.
We have a celebrity using their platform to speak out against deportations.
Right.
We have an administration that is really prioritizing the removal of undocumented immigrants.
Yeah.
Especially those with criminal records. And then we have the public who's just kind of struggling to reconcile this desire for security with a sense of compassion. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, we have this proposal for a bounty system. Which just adds fuel to the fire.
It's a perfect example of how, individual stories and political agendas and public anxieties all intersect, creating this complex and often emotionally charged debate.
It's a lot to process, for sure. But I think it's important to remember that behind all the political rhetoric and the media frenzy, that there are real people whose lives are directly affected by these policies.
Absolutely. And that's where Selena Gomez's documentary, Living Undocumented, comes in. It gives us a window into the human cost of these debates, allowing us to see the faces and hear the stories of those caught in the crossfire.
So let's shift our focus there for a moment and kind of dive into the specifics of that documentary.
Okay.
And what it reveals about the lived experience of undocumented immigrants in the United States.
Sounds good.
Okay, so we were about to delve into Selena Gomez's documentary, Living Undocumented.
Right.
Seems like a really powerful way to kind of understand the human side of this. Often very abstract debate.
Yeah, what's remarkable about the series is how it humanizes the issue of undocumented immigration. These aren't just statistics. These are families, individuals with hopes and fears and dreams, just like anyone else. One story that particularly resonated with me involved a young woman who was brought to the U.S. as a child. And she excelled in school. She became a nurse.
Wow.
And was contributing so positively to society, but she constantly lived with this fear of deportation.
It's got to be incredibly difficult to live with that, like, constant uncertainty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's just a reminder that This isn't just about policies.
Right.
This is about people's lives.
Yeah.
And their sense of belonging and the impact that it has on their families.
Precisely. And another compelling story featured an undocumented father who was struggling to provide for his U.S.-born children while navigating just the complexities of the legal system.
Right.
And it really brings to light the ethical dilemmas, the conflict between upholding the law, but also recognizing the human impact of those laws.
It sounds like the documentary does a good job of really highlighting the nuance of the issue and going beyond this kind of like simplified.
The for or against.
For or against rhetoric.
It definitely does. And, while it focuses on those individual stories, it also touches on broader systemic issues, like the backlogs in immigration courts, the challenges of obtaining legal status, and that constant threat of deportation that hangs over these families.
This kind of brings us back to that Mississippi lawmaker's proposal for bounties on undocumented immigrants.
It's a stark contrast.
Yeah, it's like a direct contradiction to the empathy and understanding presented in Gomez's documentary.
It highlights the stark divide in perspectives. The documentary aims to foster empathy and understanding.
Right.
That proposal seemed to come from fear and a perception of undocumented immigrants as a threat.
Yeah, it's interesting how this is a single event. Selena Gomez posting this emotional video has kind of like unearthed these very deeply ingrained beliefs.
Absolutely.
And anxieties. About immigration in general.
It makes you wonder, what role does fear play in shaping public opinion on this issue?
We often hear these arguments, about the economic impact of immigration, concerns about crime, the strain on social services. But is there also like this underlying fear of the other?
Right.
A fear of those who are different from us?
It's a tough question.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a simple answer.
No.
But I do think it's a question worth asking.
Absolutely.
Because if we're going to have any hope of finding some common ground on this issue, we need to understand the motivations behind people's beliefs.
And that includes acknowledging that some people have legitimate concerns.
Absolutely.
About the impact of undocumented immigration.
No, it's not about dismissing those concerns. It's about, engaging in a dialogue. That's based on facts, not fear.
It's one thing to say, hey, we need to enforce our immigration laws. But it's another thing to propose something like a bounty system, which just seems to be rooted in this very punitive rather than a problem-solving approach.
Exactly. And this is where the conversation needs to shift.
Yeah.
Instead of focusing just on enforcement, we need to consider the complexities of the system, the root causes of undocumented immigration, and, the potential for a comprehensive reform.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit.
Okay.
When we say comprehensive reform, what does that actually entail?
Well, for starters, there's the issue of the existing undocumented population.
Right.
Estimates suggest that there are over 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States.
Wow.
Any comprehensive reform would need to address their legal status and provide a pathway to citizenship for those who meet certain criteria.
That seems like a huge undertaking politically and logistically.
It is, but it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah.
Leaving millions of people in legal limbo is not a sustainable solution.
No, that's not.
And then what about border security?
Yeah, that seems to be a major sticking point for a lot of people.
Absolutely. Any comprehensive reform would need to include measures to enhance border security and, prevent future undocumented immigration. However, the focus should be on smart and effective strategies, not just building walls or increasing enforcement without addressing those underlying push and pull factors.
So things like addressing economic disparities.
Exactly.
Improving living conditions in countries of origin. Potentially even creating legal pathways for temporary work visas.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that immigration is a complex issue driven by a multitude of factors. And finding lasting solutions requires this multifaceted approach that addresses both the symptoms and the root causes.
So it sounds like there's no easy fix.
There isn't.
It's not just about building a wall or granting amnesty.
Right.
It's about a fundamental shift.
Absolutely.
In how we approach the issue as a society. And it requires a willingness to compromise and a recognition of our shared humanity.
And that's where Selena Gomez's emotional plea, and her work on living undocumented can play a role.
Yeah.
It's about moving beyond the political rhetoric and recognizing the human cost of these debates.
It's about bridging the gap between personal stories and policy decisions.
Yeah.
And reminding us that behind all the statistics and the political maneuvering, that there are real people whose lives are on the line.
And in a political climate that often feels increasingly polarized and divisive, those personal stories can be really powerful catalysts for change.
Absolutely.
They have the potential to challenge preconceived notions, to foster empathy and understanding, and to inspire a more compassionate approach to, these complex issues.
So if we circle back to Selena Gomez's initial video, the one that sparked all of this, what do you think was the lasting impact?
It's hard to say. It's difficult to measure the precise impact of a single event, especially in, the swirling vortex of social media.
Right.
However, what we can say with certainty is that it generated a lot of discussion and debate.
Yeah, it brought the issue to the forefront.
Yeah, and engagement.
The cultural conversation. And really forced people to confront their own beliefs and biases.
Exactly. And while it may not have single-handedly changed hearts and minds, it served as a powerful reminder that, these political debates have real-world consequences.
Yeah.
And they impact the lives of individuals and families in profound ways.
It humanized the issue. It gave a face and a voice to those who are often marginalized and silenced in these political discourses.
And that in itself is a significant achievement.
Yeah.
Because when we start to see the human faces behind the political rhetoric, it becomes much harder to ignore the moral and ethical implications of our choices.
Right. It's a reminder that empathy and compassion are essential ingredients in any conversation about immigration.
And those qualities are perhaps more important now than ever before in a world that often feels increasingly divided and polarized.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into this complex and emotionally charged issue, I'm curious, what are some of the things that really resonated with you and what questions are you left with? It's interesting how this all started with just one video, of Selena Gomez expressing her raw emotion. It highlights how personal stuff and politics are often just intertwined.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to something like immigration.
Yeah, it's a reminder that behind every policy,
right,
every statistic, every debate, there are real people whose lives are directly affected.
And Selena Gomez's story, her family's history with immigration just adds a whole other layer to this.
Yeah, it really does.
It makes you think about how all of our own personal experiences really shape how we view these large societal issues.
Absolutely. We all come to these conversations with these totally unique perspectives, informed by our own upbringings, our values, our lived experiences. And just acknowledging that those different viewpoints is essential if we want to have, a productive dialogue.
Yeah, it's like that saying, walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Right.
It's so easy to have opinions about abstract concepts.
Yeah.
But when you actually hear someone's story,
right,
when you actually see how a policy impacts a human, it can just totally shift your perspective.
And that's what I think Selena Gomez really achieved with Living Undocumented.
Yeah.
She gave a platform to those stories, allowing viewers to connect with the people and the families who are often dehumanized in all the political rhetoric.
It's about fostering empathy, understanding, and recognizing our shared humanity.
Absolutely.
And that seems so crucial now more than ever.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to immigration, where the conversation is so dominated by fear and division.
Yeah. It's about shifting the narrative from us versus them to we. Because at the end of the day, we're all part of the same human family. We're all navigating this world together.
Right.
And finding solutions to these big challenges like immigration.
Right.
It requires collaboration, compassion, and a willingness to see beyond our own limited perspectives.
It's about recognizing there's no one-size-fits-all answer.
Yeah.
It's multifaceted.
Very complex.
And any solution needs to address the need for security and human dignity.
Absolutely. And that's where the real work begins.
Right.
It's not just about expressing how we feel. It's about engaging in these thoughtful, informed discussions, listening to different viewpoints, and working together to find solutions that are practical and compassionate.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Selena Gomez's story and, the bigger picture of immigration, I'm just left thinking, how can we as individuals contribute to a more nuanced and humane conversation around this? How do we bridge those divides that separate us and work towards a future where everyone feels safe and welcomed and valued?
It's the question we all need to be asking, as we navigate this complex and ever-evolving world. And perhaps the key is recognizing our shared humanity, embracing empathy as a guiding principle, and engaging in these open and honest discussions, even when it's hard. Because our collective future depends on our ability to find common ground, to build bridges of understanding, and to work together towards a more just and compassionate world for everyone.
Well said. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It was my pleasure.
We'll be back next time with another exploration of a fascinating topic.
Awesome.
Where we'll unpack the latest news research and insights to help you stay informed and engaged with the world around you.
Sounds great.
Until then, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep striving to make a positive difference.
Sound the alarm. I'm coming up. We'll have a ball. I'm sweet like a buttercup. You're Bobby doll.